this, guys, tonight, so that people throughout the state can see this. I'm Chapel King. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 20 years. I help at Florence Animal Shelter, help run the nonprofit there. I'm also helping currently right now, we're working on a low-cost spay and neuter clinic here in the Shoals. And the main thing for me to get involved with that is so that I can learn the process, so that throughout the state we can help other people get those spay and neuter clinics, because everybody here knows how much that would benefit everybody, and that would fix a whole lot of our problem if we could get a lot of these animals fixed. I've been in animal advocacy here locally for about 8 years. Before that, I worked with a rescue in Birmingham called Save Our Strays. My whole entire life, my dad had brought dogs home from work. One day I was pregnant at the grocery store and a dog showed up there. Of course, I took it home, found it at home. So this is something that really means a lot to me. And the reason we're having this meeting tonight is to get people together. There's something about coming together face to face. I mean, yes, we could do this on the internet. We could Zoom it all day long. But something about coming together and meeting each other and getting people rallied up to make this change that we need to make. We're here tonight because, I mean, things aren't good, guys. I mean, every day things get worse for these animals out there and they're not getting better. And so we're here to form a group together and try to make that change. I'm not here tonight because I have all these ideas that I think are going to work. I'm here tonight to work together with everybody so that we can work on ideas together, so that we can find a plan to make these changes all the way from here to the end of the state and to each side. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar. There was a group many years ago. Cheryl, how many years ago was Avril?
12, 13 years ago.
Okay, so there was a group called Avril. Several ladies formed a group, mainly about 3 or 4 people. They went to Montgomery and they really worked hard. They had, I don't know if it was branches or sections in each county where they had coordinators. Cheryl was a coordinator for Lauderdale County. And basically they were the people that gave the information out of, I guess, what was going on or what they needed to do, whether it was, you know, send emails or make phone calls or whatever at the time. These ladies have retired, they're out of the business, but they're still around to help give ideas. We've got to get back to doing some of the things that they did. They passed some laws, guys. These were average people. They had no law degrees. They were not state representatives. They were just your animal activists who went to Montgomery and said, we've had enough. And so we've got to figure out how to get back to running the group like they did. So a couple of weeks ago, after we had 2 bills go to Montgomery this year, HB 149 and HB 249, those bills made it out of committee, which is further than we've made it in a very long time since I've been doing this. And we made it somewhere, but we didn't make it where we needed to. So I decided, I reached out to a lady in Montgomery that I know, and she got me on the phone with a lobbyist. I spent several hours on the phone with this person, and they have gotten a lot of bills passed in Montgomery, like a ton of bills over the years. Nothing with animals, but I learned something, and yes.
Would you give us a brief overview of what those 2 bills
Yes,
would have done?
yes. HB 149 was a bill that basically sums it up. It defines tethering. It talks about, you know, tethering your dog. It talks about outdoor shelter, so defines what a doghouse should be. We all know people can make a doghouse out of anything. And that you basically have to properly feed your animal. I mean, so that they're not losing weight. HB 249 was an abandonment law, basically saying you can't abandon your animal. I can pull those and definitely have those up on Facebook or email those to anybody so you could read those. I think a lot of what happened in speaking with a lobbyist, for a long time we have blamed a certain group for fighting all of this in Montgomery and keeping us from getting laws passed. But after spending 2 hours on the phone with somebody who spent years after years every day in the state capital of Montgomery, I found out, guys, guess who's the problem? Us. We're the problem. You know why? Because we've not been fighting hard enough. We've not. Sending a few emails, making a few phone calls, that's not enough. We are our own problem, and that's what we've got to change. He brought me to a new reality. None of this may work, it may not. But guess what? We're going to try it. And that's why I'm here, because I thought, you know what? After speaking to him, we've got to do something different. So you write an email. They go down through there, they click them, they hit delete. You make a phone call, their voicemail box is full. How do you reach them? We've got to handwrite letters. That's a lot of the reason where we went wrong. We've got to fill those walls up with letters. Stack them to the ceiling, whatever it takes. We've got to let them see that the people in this state are writing letters. They're handwriting them, taking their time. And another thing is we need to go and speak at these committee meetings. When we have bills that are being presented, we need a very small group of people that are very diplomatic, very well spoken, that can go and just say a few words, nothing major, but just go and say, this is why it's important for us to have these bills passed. And another thing we've got to do that we're not good at is brown nosing. We've got to find our legislators. We've got to be friends with them on Facebook. See where they're going to be this weekend. They're going to be at the park, at the event. Go talk to them. Comment on their Facebook posts. Get to know these people. They are just like me and you. And we've got to change the way that we've done this. We've got to make them know who we are too. So the League of Humane Voters, that was a group several years ago when I saw the frustration with everything going on in Montgomery. I realized there's got to be somebody out there that's doing something. So I contacted this group, and they're not very vocal in Alabama as much as other states. This group goes around, and what they do is they go to events and maybe set up at Walmart or different places, and what they do is they get people registered to vote. And so what they do is they find candidates at election time, which we're approaching next year. Our state reps are going to be up for election. So they find the people that are going to support the animals. They put signs in their yard. They wear their t-shirts. They put their bumper stickers on their car. They share their Facebook posts, and they get behind those people that have vowed to help them. So what happened over time is this group would vote in these people that would go and help them. So then the average community was watching them saying, oh, you know what? Look at who they're voting for. Look at what they're getting done. These are good people. So they started watching, and every time this League of Humane Voters would pick a candidate, everybody would vote for that one candidate. So that's how they made change in a lot of ways, by just picking the right people. So one of the things that's a big issue is, yes, we're talking about, Montgomery and the laws and stuff like that, but we have good animal cruelty laws on the books. If you have a chance, you can look up 13A11-240 through 247. Read those laws. Alabama has some of the best animal cruelty laws, but the problem is they're not enforced. And I think a lot of it is just the education. We have a lot of departments. I know I've spoke to several over the years that don't know that they exist. They don't know that they're on the books. And if they do, they don't know how to use them. So that's one thing we've got to change. But how do we, as a group, get that done? We can't go tell all these people, you've got to do this, you've got to enforce, you've got to educate. But maybe if we get big enough, maybe if we have a name behind us, maybe if we make some progress, maybe that we can change that too. We have a lot of people in the state that do education and training for law enforcement. But these departments like district attorneys, sheriffs, they're not calling these people up saying, come train us, come train us. We have got to be the voice to say, you have got to get that training. And so that's one of the reasons that I want to form a group that's statewide, is so that we can be a resource for each other. And so much to where you have somebody that says, hey, tell me who I can call that can get training for my county. Tell me who we can call to do this. So being a resource for each other is a big part of the reason I think we need to form a group. It's time that we hold people accountable. These people we're voting for in Montgomery, they're working for us. We're the taxpayers. It's time to hold them accountable. It's time to ask them to work for us and tell them what we need. It's about grassroots. that's where we are, guys. We've got to go back to the grassroots of this and try to start from the bottom and figure this out, because we've got to get something done. How many people in this room tonight, who knows their legislator? Who knows who their legislator is? Okay. So I will say this, and at the end of the meeting, you can come up if you don't have your phone to pull this up. There is a website called pluralpolicy.com. PLURAL policy, all one word, .com. You can go to that website. You can type your address in, and it's going to tell you who your legislator is. Get to know them, know their name, know who they are. A lot of these people are on social media. Their email address is out there. Email them. Tell them who you are. We've got to get to know our people. I don't know why. I mean, does anybody know why they're not listening to us? Does anybody have any ideas?
Because we don't show up. Because enough warm bodies don't go and show up. People have to show up. You can write letters, but warm bodies have to be present.
I agree.
You have to go.
Squeaky wheel.
That's
And
right.
You're right.
we've got to be unified too.
That's right. We do. We have to get unified and we have to get organized to fix this. And we need people that can say, I'm retired, I work from home. I can send out emails. I can add a link to an email. I can send this out to people so that they can find out who their state rep is. We've got to have people that are ready to step up and help. And then there's going to be people that say, I can't, I work too much, but I can find who my legislator is. I can put a sign in my yard. I can handwrite a letter. I can send an email. I can do those things. So we're going to need different levels of people. We're going to need a few people to go to Montgomery. The session starts in January and goes through May. We have a very short legislative session. And we need people to go up there. We need to shake these hands. One of the things when I spoke with a lobbyist, he said, do you know who the members of the Rules Committee is? And I said, no. He said, how do you think you're going to get a law passed? How do you think you're going to do anything if you don't know who those members of that Rules Committee, because that's where your bill was sitting before it died. Such a reality, y'all, speaking to somebody who's actually been in Montgomery and been there for so many years. So one of the groups that really got things done told me about this book, Getting Political for Animals. So I purchased it. I'm going to read it and see what happens with that. I'm going to read you what the back of the book says. A lawmaker's primary concern is to be reelected. Base your lobbying strategy on this simple reality, and you can win animal protection laws that are now only fantasies. Julie Lewin, NIFFA president and trainer, if you want laws and public policies to prevent companion animal overpopulation, laws on dog fighting, puppy mills, chaining, pet stores, research, and you want to enforce them, and you want to elect humane lawmakers, and want to lobby for animals and have it count, the key to your success is political action. Despite the tremendous strides in public awareness over the last decade, laws and ordinances for the protection of animals remains weak. The reason is shockingly simple. Animal advocates do not function politically. That's where we are. NIFFA was founded in 2002 to fill a critical void in the animal rescue and rights movement. To win the strong state and local laws, we must want that the animals so desperately need, we must become political animals. Being political means launching voting blocks in your town, city, or state, and organizing politically and endorsing candidates. As all other grassroots groups know, when it comes to lawmaking arena, there is no substitute for leverage of endorsements. Lobbying for charitable organizations and sending legislative alerts only nibble at the fringes of political power. It's not all hard. A few advocates can make it happen. It simply requires refocusing, rejecting our old ways of thinking and assumptions, and embracing these truths. This is everything I've been thinking in the past few weeks. And I can't wait to read this book and see what happens with that. One of the things we've definitely got to do that I've experienced in the past year is no matter who you are, no matter what rescue you don't like or who you don't care about, we have to work together. We all have one goal. And no drama, no bickering. We have to decide we're going to work together. We're going to get this done, everybody. Because this is the only way it's going to happen is for everybody to get on board. Be diplomatic and just get it done. I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing dogs in ditches, puppies being dumped. I mean, I think we're all exhausted. And that's why I'm here. You know, there's going to be a whole lot, and I've already experienced some of it. People don't want people to stand up. They don't want people to fight. But you know what? Until I see somebody else trying to do it, that's why I'm trying to get a group of people together and get this formed so that we can get something done. And if anybody has any ideas or anything at any point, that's what we need. We need people ready to think and get busy. These legislators, one thing I found, I've had a couple of meetings this year. I've been in Montgomery several times. Met with the lieutenant governor and several other people, talked with state representatives, some locally and some not. But y'all, they don't care about those puppies in the ditch. They don't. We've got to make them care about those puppies in the ditch. And how are we going to do that? We've got to change the way we think, change the way we vote. They're concerned about their votes. We're concerned about the puppies in the ditch. So that's what we've got to do. We've got to, as bad as we don't, we're busy, we're focusing on other things. We have got to pay attention to the political world because that's where we are now. We're never going to get this fixed if we don't. So whether it's local or state, we've got to work together and get this done. Be a resource for each other. And this doesn't necessarily mean everything about Montgomery. This means to have other people to say, my county's struggling. Can I have people go to my county commission meeting with me? My city's struggling. Can people go with me to talk to my city council? We work together to try to help fix these problems. We have a lot of people or counties in the state that don't have animal shelters. And there's a law that says basically over 5,000, you must have a shelter. So we've got counties not even enforcing the state law. So we've got so many issues. Has anybody been watching Facebook and seen a Georgia Pet Coalition? If you're not following them on Facebook, go do that tonight. This is a group of people who formed an LLC, and I love the name Georgia Pet Coalition. I think we're going to have to call ourselves Alabama Pet Coalition. They are doing amazing things. Yes, their government system is set up different here. Their legislative system, I know, is different. I'm hoping to get a call and talk to these people doing this to find out how they're doing this and what they're doing. They have made some big changes, y'all. Follow them. They are amazing. So I looked it up today to form an LLC because I was kind of wanting to stay away from a 501c3 or a PAC. You still have to file with the IRS. You still have to get the name. Cost a couple of $100, which I'm definitely willing to pay that. But we've got to have somebody willing to help the IRS paperwork. There's a whole lot of paperwork that goes involved with doing 501c3s, LLCs. So anybody here tonight or anybody watching this that says, I'm willing to do that part of things, keep up with it, file with the IRS every year, then please contact me because that would be something great if we could get that going. So I have a lot more meetings planned. I'm planning on going to other parts of the state, talking to people, meeting with them, just to see who else is willing to get involved. That's why we're doing this. We got to get organized and unified. That's where we are. If you're not signed up to vote, go to alabamavotes.gov. Like I said, election will be next year in November of 2026. We're going to be voting on a new governor, new state representatives, and so we've got to know who we're voting for. I'm going to talk a little bit about how bills are passed because I'm sure that's a lot of things people probably have some questions about. So when the state reps come up with a bill, they decide, oh, we need a bill for whatever it is. They go and get a number for it, just like we talked about HB 149. They basically kind of like file it. And so then it goes to a committee, which every bill that with animals goes to the agriculture committee. Once they're heard there and they all agree on it and they vote on it, then it goes to the rules committee. After it leaves the rules committee, it will go to the floor for a vote. Then the governor has to sign off on it. So a lot of process in between. Basically, the breakdown is introduction, committee action. It goes to the floor for debate and vote. Second chamber, governor's action, and then it goes into a law or they veto it. So those are basically the steps of. Go ahead.
On that, you know at what stage HB 149 and 249 failed? Where did they stop?
249, Deanna, did it make it out of committee?
It did make it out of committee.
They
So
made it-
Both bills made it out of
They
committee.
made it to the rules committee. And by what I understand, there are thousands upon thousands of bills in the rules committee.
Yeah.
And if you're not up there in Montgomery handing a little note card to those clerks as they walk down the hall, or to those members of the rules committee, sending emails and saying, hey, don't forget our bill, hey, I'm here from such and such group, we've got Bill 149, hey, will you please look at that? Very nicely, but you have to kind of poke at them. And that's what we're not doing, one of the things we're not doing. And maybe if we had been there and known what to do, and I didn't know, a lot of people didn't know, I didn't even know who the rules committee members were. And that's what we've got to find out. And I'm in the process of finding out who those are. Now, of course, it will change probably in November, once everybody votes. But we need to know who those members are, and that's the whole point.
You alluded earlier to the fact that Alabama has several very strong and very forceful animal protection laws.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all acknowledge, however, particularly here locally, that we very rarely see a prosecution of those people charged, never even charged, or plea bargained away. What about that issue, and how do we address that issue? Because these people get elected to office, and then I would think that they still feel some obligation to follow the laws as they are laid out, and yet, time and again, we don't see that happening in the real world.
No, we don't. And that's why holding them accountable, letting them know there's training and education available, and staying active.
We're not talking about training here.
Yeah.
They know what the law is.
Oh, yeah, they do. You're right.
It's not a question of training.
Oh, I know.
It's not a question of, gee, I didn't know the law allowed me to prosecute these people.
Yeah.
So what is it, what is the reason why it's not happening?
It's the district attorneys, basically. Let's just say it.
That's
Two district
why-
attorneys.
Yeah. I mean, we have to vote them out. If somebody would run against them, that's exactly what we could do. And that's what we've got to do. And I think things are going to look a whole lot different. That's the whole point of having these meetings, is for people to know who their people are. We've got to change the way we vote. And you know, maybe it's a group. That's the whole thing. Decide who's the best candidate. Interview candidates and say who is going to prosecute. Who is actually going to change something. I mean, in a lot of counties, we actually do pretty well here in Lauderdale County compared to most. I mean, a lot of counties don't.
That's a pretty sad commentary
I know.
on the rest of the state, if indeed that is the case.
I know, it is. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Madison County does not prosecute anyone. I'm from Madison County, and it is completely embarrassing that they will have mass animal cruelty cases where they overload the shelters when the animals are confiscated. It takes an act of Congress to get the animals confiscated from these horrifying conditions, and all they do is say, oh, you give us the animals, we're going to euthanize them all, don't worry. But once you give them up, we're just going to let the case go. It's disgusting.
And one of the largest counties and the most wealthiest counties in Alabama is doing exactly what she said. They don't prosecute anybody.
And not only do they not prosecute, they will leave animals to suffer instead of following the law that is stated and getting them and euthanizing them for their safety and less suffering. They just leave them there.
Or,
I know
as
it
the
all
law
too well.
states, treating them medically and helping them to recover because it costs too much money and they underfund the shelters.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
I was just gonna say, it sounds like that whatever group you form, you know, if we could, we know the people in our counties more than we know Montgomery.
Right.
And, you know, if whatever program or action checklist or whatever you set up for people to try to begin to hound their counties, you know, in a diplomatic way, as you say.
Yes.
You know, and to get them to follow this, my county, we've not even moved into our new shelter yet, but this is the first shelter that we will ever have had. Okay, so I see all that you're saying, I see it on Facebook, I know it in my county. We, you know, if you want, you know, saying that abandoned animals, that's cruelty, because you are abandoning them with no shelter, no food. But the larger hoarding cases, we know they're out there, we just don't see it because nobody does anything. You know, we don't even have an animal control officer. But just beginning that, you know, so I've thought about all these beginning stages. How do we get our sheriff's department to appoint somebody, hire somebody, pull a retired police officer off, you know, and say, hey, can you do this?
Yeah.
You spend two, 3 days a week doing it. And then, you know, the next steps to get it prosecuted, like, and keep them in the news. I mean,
There you
I
go.
can't do that
Yes.
because my bylaws of our shelter say that I can't do that, but somebody in our county can.
Right, and that's the thing about it. We've got to have more people speaking up. And whether it's a local district attorney or local sheriff's department that's leaving that dog out there suffering in the heat, chained up with no food, we've got to have a group. And if we say, we're the Alabama Pet Coalition, here's the law, we want something done about it, here's where you need to go to get training. As taxpayers, we're not going to continue to vote for you. The whole thing is whatever we decide to do, we've got to do something. Because what we're doing now, y'all's not working. I mean, sitting home and complaining about it on Facebook, we're not getting anywhere.
But
And-
you know, my thought was that we could do that on the local level.
Yes.
And then have a different, not a different group, the same people that
Yeah.
are passionate about it, but a different group that's just putting their focus on the state level.
But what you were talking about setting up the shelter and getting things, that's where the resources come in. That's where you've got people like animal shelter directors that we can get in contact with those people. And this is about connecting people as much as it is trying to write letters and get things done. This is about connecting people. I'm going to tell y'all, I can't tell you how many times sitting here as a citizen that I have called police departments and said, guys, you need to do this. You know there's a law. There was a situation in Winston County about a year ago, and dogs were laying out there dying. And I called the officer all weekend long, y'all. And on Monday morning, you know what he did? He arrested the guy because he finally pulled the law up that I had been texting him all weekend long, saying, you can remove these dogs. You don't have to have a warrant or wait for the owners to get home. These dogs are dying. And he finally listened to me. I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody. But the whole thing is just being a resource and knowing things. And I have literally educated myself, you know, taken some online classes and educated myself. And the whole thing is, you know, it's a group. We're not going to tell anybody to go out there and do anything. This is about getting action, about using our words, using our voice, and connecting people together and with resources. And that's the whole thing about it. Once this officer looked up the law, he got it. The problem was fixed. The dogs were saved, and there we go. So sometimes people just don't know. It's literally just about making a phone call or writing a letter or anything like that.
Chapel, I think the gentleman with the camera has a question.
Well, I mean, would it be inappropriate for me to ask something?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to throw it out there. I think a lot of problems is, I think the biggest hurdle is just the Southern culture.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't force someone to like be empathetic towards animals. And, you know, it's just like a farm culture where they're, for various reasons, they're desensitized to that. And that's what you're fighting against. And, just from experience of me hanging out at county commission, filming their meetings and stuff, those good openers don't give a shit. They don't. I'm just
Thank you for being there.
They just don't. And you follow, my opinion, you follow the laws of the world in there. I don't know.
But guess what's gonna make them care, y'all? Our votes. When we change, when we say, yes, we can continue to save those puppies in that ditch, but we can also share something on Facebook. We can put a sign in our yard. We can sit there at the community picnic and talk to our sheriff or our legislator or whoever it is and say, this is what we want, and I'm gonna vote you in if you promise to do this for me, and if you don't, then I will not vote again. And then you call your neighbor and your sister and your family and you tell everybody, don't vote for them again because I called and they left that puppy out there in the ditch. When we start as a group and be united and organized and we start speaking up and saying, we're done, we're not going to do this anymore. If people don't start changing when we vote them in, then we will start being noticed, y'all. We will. It's just going to take time. Go ahead.
I live in Muscle Shoals, and they have a lease law. And there was a police officer sitting there, and there was somebody with a dog not on a leash. And I said to him, look, because I had my dog on a leash. I go, look, the dog's not on a leash. And he goes, well, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah. Well, he's
That's-
not animal control and he's not trained in knowing what to do.
No,
He
he's
probably doesn't even know that that's on the books. He
Oh,
may not
really?
even
That he
know.
doesn't know that there's a law for... that
He may not.
So,
He may not know his own
Is
city
these people dumb
ordinances.
down here? Excuse me, yeah.
She's
There.
from the north.
I'm from the north. You know, and the
Great
thing of
north.
it is, we had C-SNP,
Yeah.
where you got your animals fixed for very reasonable.
Yeah.
So,
And we're hoping to get that way
so,
eventually.
you know, I could call them or whatever, get some information how they got set up.
So it sounds like from what I'm hearing tonight, it's kind of a two-step problem. Number one, we have to actually, change the law for tougher laws for people that abuse animals. That's part one. But part two, if we rescue animals from, a home where, they were being abused, we have to make sure that there's a safe place in every county for those animals to go. So I'd like to ask you regarding part two, since not all counties right now have a shelter, how do we address part two?
Well, that's the whole thing, River, is forming this group and trying to work through all this. I mean, that's why I'm here tonight. I'm bringing you all of this, and we've got to work together on this as a group. I'm hoping this, and this is what I've been told, it's going to open up some doors. Here's the thing about it. I don't love that we're in Montgomery trying to pass laws, y'all. I'm going to be honest. I don't love it because we are not even enforcing the laws we have now. But how do we do that? The question is, or do we do this? Do we continue to fight? Because I know HB 149 will be presented again next year. I know that without a doubt. Do we get behind that bill 100%? We get that passed and then we get known. And then they're like, oh, this group helped pass this bill. What else are they capable of? Then we can say, we need education, we need enforcement. How do we do that? So the whole thing is just trying to use our brains and come together and figure this out together.
I just want to say, I wasn't trying to discourage anyone. I was just saying, like, what we're up against. I think laws are very important, but local constant pressure is also.
Yep.
And to his
It's a
point,
big hurdle. We are not just
Go
one.
that's
I'm
a-
listening.
that
Educate people.
isn't a pet considered, to his point, part of the hurdle is considered your property,
A lot of people do.
and you can't,
Don't
don't
you
tell
have
me
to
what
be
to do with my
responsible
property.
for your property though?
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Well, to a point, but I mean, it just like there's just one excuse after another. What would be an excuse not to, the DA or whoever not to go through with it? I mean, they're humans, don't they have, if they don't have pets, they love somebody that has pets, don't
The
they have a
excuse-
child that loves kittens or something?
The
Where's the
excuse
humanity?
seems to be is we can't. The law says this. It's a lot of excuses. It's not that they can't, it's that they won't. I'm going to tell you this. There are bigger priorities to people in our
Yeah, I
public
understand
office.
that part.
And that's the whole thing we've got to change.
Because they're just animals.
They're just animals.
Right.
Y'all, I don't know if y'all know, I've been following this couple on Facebook, and they have this dog, a Labradoodle, and it sniffs the child's blood sugar. And so when the child's blood sugar gets really low or really high, before the electronic device notifies them of a critical value in this child's blood sugar, the dog tells them. Y'all tell me why that's not important.
It is important. Just to let you know, Chapel, there are 42 people watching you on Facebook Live right now,
That's wonderful.
including animal control officers and legislators.
That's
So
wonderful.
thank you for having this meeting.
Cheryl, I want Cheryl Jones, she's the animal control officer and director here at, in Florence, and I want to let her come up and say anything she thinks I left off, because she has been involved in this a whole lot longer than me.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, if you are in an area that does not have a shelter, the Alabama state law requires every county in Alabama to have what it calls a pound. You can start with your local county officials by reminding them of the rabies code, which is what requires every county in Alabama to have a pound to take in animals that are running at large in violation of the rabies code. So when you are in a county that doesn't have a shelter, that is the conversations you would start having with your local officials. That the rabies code that's been in force in Alabama in a long time requires every county to have a pound. Any municipality over a certain amount either has to have their own pound or they have to pay into the county pound. And then we have Emily's Law that you can remind your officials about that the state of Alabama passed. Emily's Law is the law that says if you have a dangerous dog, you can be held accountable criminally if you're aware that your dog has dangerous propensities and ends up injuring somebody. Keep in mind that is animal on people, not animal on animal. But those are two things that we talked to the Lieutenant Governor about when we were down there, about why we think that the state should put some money in to counties for shelters and animal control, because there's been a lot of citizens who have been killed and injured because of animals running at large that nothing was done about. And so maybe it's time that the state looks into putting some money into helping keep citizens safe, since there's two laws on the state books that come into play here.
What can we do about the backyard breeding? Is there anything that we can do? They are pumping out litters
Well,
and litters and litters of
I will tell
puppies.
you, unofficially, we passed an ordinance in Florence some years ago that said the only puppies that could be sold in pet stores had to come from the shelter, and that was because there was a pet store that had a Petland franchise, and Petland is a pet store in Montgomery.
They're not selling them. They're just letting
Yeah, I know,
them
but let me tell you. And then Muscle Shoals followed suit, passing the same ordinance that we passed. And when Muscle Shoals passed the ordinance, AKC showed up to protest the ordinance. So when we talk about the group that has been against any kind of animal legislation in Alabama, and it's very well known that it's Alpha and the Farmers Federation, and the reason being is that they don't want any animal legislation that's going to affect cows and, livestock, even though in the past it's always been specifically companion animals, dogs and cats. The AKC is also tied to Alpha and the Farmers Federation. So when the representative came to Muscle Shoals, that was part of the conversations that we were having, is that they didn't like the ordinance that was telling what puppies could be sold at the pet stores, even though we will all agree that serious breeders don't peddle their puppies in stores. they're going to have a transaction between themselves and a purchaser, they are not gonna be doing it that way. And I offered to take her to several backyard breeders that were a problem in my county and Colbert County. Because they were peddling dogs that were sick, and that was a problem for our shelter as well as the Colbert County shelter. Because when these puppies get sick, where do you think they end up? They're gonna end up getting surrendered. So we have talked to county officials and said, we also, spoke at the government level and said, counties should be able to regulate breeding. They should be able to require permits, and they should be able to require animal control to do inspections. They should have licenses, because they're peddling a product, and in some cases an inferior product. And when you want to talk about dogs, the breeding has a lot to do with what the final product is. And there are breeders out there that are doing it right. So one of the things we have to stop as an animal community is the, adopt, don't shop. We have to, as an animal community, understand that professional breeders that are doing it right have a right to run a business, and people have a right to purchase a product. And we have to focus our attention on those backyard breeders that aren't doing it right, and that be who we're targeting.
But if we can get a group together, and we can start getting things done, eventually we can get that law passed too.
Mhm.
The whole thing is, if we can do it, we've just gotta start somewhere.
Mhm.
We've gotta start small.
Yeah.
Cheryl, I think it'd be a good idea for you to provide these folks here with a quick summary of the cases that you've been involved with regards to backyard breeders here in this county.
Well, we have done, we did the case in Green Hill that was 144 dogs that he surrendered to us. We did the dog fighting case on Emma Way, which was juveniles, mamas and puppies, that was 68.
That's what I'm talking about.
Our
That
most
kind of
recent
stuff
one-
right there.
Our
I've
most
got a
recent
case
one
of
was-
20 right now in Madison County.
Yeah. Our most recent one was 82, that grew to over 100 with, puppies being born. But we lost litters of puppies because of the poor prenatal care. One mother attacked her puppies and killed 2 of the 3 because they were they were tired.
And what was the outcome of this last case?
The charges were dismissed in response for them signing over the animals.
Didn't that happen in 2015 too with Laura Fetterman? Weren't the charges kind of dismissed for her signing over the 150 rabbits?
Well,
To the
Laura
foreign
also got
habitat?
to pick where her animals went.
Yeah, I've got one of her
At least with this
cockatoos.
one, she did not get to pick where her animals went. She tried twice to first sell her dogs to other breeders,
Yeah.
and then to sell her puppies to a broker.
Is she able to continue to have dogs again if she wants to?
No, she's also signed a search waiver, which means we can go out to her property anytime we want to. Now,
She should be in jail.
I expect that she will just move her operation because she actually is known across the state line, but animal control over there is watching for her because that's where we expect she will turn back up and set up.
It could have been worse. I wanted her in jail, but at least we got something out of it. Some of these other counties, like Madison County, they're not getting anything.
We have an amazing animal control in our county. Madison County Animal Control is stepping up. They help. They are working with local rescuers, providing vouchers, coming to the places that we go and assisting. We don't have spay and neuter laws. We need laws to force these people to be responsible for
Well,
their animals.
But we have talked about that, and the issue here is that we have to be careful with spay and neuter laws, because out here, we don't have enough we don't have enough opportunity for spay and neuter for people to be able to comply with the law. Now, what Huntsville has, because I've said this before, we are a shelter that takes in, we took in 5,300 animals last year. Our intake had trended down to below 5,000. We take in roughly about as many animals as Huntsville Animal Services takes in. We are equivalent in size to Huntsville Animal Services. However, if you look at the size of Madison County, they are about 5 times the size that we are. So something is wrong with this picture. Either we in this part of the county or the state are horribly irresponsible, and we can generate 5 times more the animals than we should, or Huntsville has figured out how to reduce their intake by 1/5. But what has Huntsville had for about 14 years?
Right, spay neuter. Now, there is one thing I will say. I love our animal control because I can call them and they will come and help, but they do not confiscate.
Yep.
They don't, when you can call and say, this animal is emaciated, this animal has not had shelter in the pouring rain or the freezing cold, and they do not confiscate. They don't. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I've tried and tried and tried to get the numbers on, you know, how many animals they do confiscate. They will help me. I go feed, I water, I run around all over the county, you know, delivering food and water. There are a lot of rescues that help me. I do flea and tick. I drop
But you
food
shouldn't
and
be doing
water
their job.
all over the county. And I rescue puppies all day long. I spay and neuter moms and dads all day long. If you guys could look at my arms and my legs, like if you look at the back of my legs right now, I am tore up. I've got scars all over me. I've got more scars on my heart than I do on my arms and legs though. But they will come and help me. They will give me spay and neuter vouchers. But if we can't stop this flow of puppies and kittens, and if we can't stop these people that can't afford to feed their animals from having them, we're just fighting a losing battle every day.
Well, that is the reason that we are working on a spay neuter clinic out here, which doesn't make us popular.
It makes you popular with me.
Well,
and all these people here.
It doesn't make us popular with a lot of the vets, but the problem is we have to stem the tide of the animals that don't have a place to live, or the unwanted population that keeps being born, because we know that every day on Facebook you can see, or you can drive around. Just this past weekend, there was free puppies being given away at the Walmart neighborhood market. On Sunday, guess what? On Memorial Day, which was a holiday, came to our shelter. One of the free puppies that was given away on on Sunday. So we know if you're out in that parking lot peddling those puppies, somebody's going to take one home and then they're going to be like, oh my goodness, this puppy's screaming because it just left its mother and litter mates and
Or
it's
it has
crying all night
trauma.
long. Puppies are cute. Everybody, you know, can't resist a cute little puppy until you get it home and it does nothing but cry, and then you're like, oh, I can't do this. So we know unless we can stop those oops litters that people are giving away, you know, don't worry, you won't come to your shelter, I'm going to give them away. Yep, you're going to give them away, and then within a week, they're going to come to the shelter because the people that you gave them away to are going to say, I'm too busy, I can't do this, it makes a mess, I don't have time to potty train.
Or they're gonna spend their lives chained to a tree
Mhm.
in horrible conditions.
So we keep trying to convince people that we don't need these oops litters.
That's
You
why
know,
we need laws, you guys. That's
That's
why we
why,
need chapel.
that's why we need affordable spay neuter, and that, you know, gets to be, an unpopular, position with some people. I'm not saying anybody doesn't have a right to make money, but we all know the population of people that you come in contact with that cannot spend what they would spend on their weekly grocery bill to get their animal fixed. We all wish that they could, but they can't. And in our reality, as a shelter director, my job is to figure out why are we inundated with animals and what can I do to fix that. And it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the vets. It doesn't mean I don't appreciate what they do and their need to make money and run a business. But I have to figure out what I can do within my control to stop the animals that are coming in nonstop. The owner surrenders are ridiculous. Ridiculous. Every day. I'm moving today and I can't take my 3 dogs and 2 cats.
Do you charge for surrenders?
We don't. Only because, people will just dump them if we tried to, is the reason that we don't.
But so you couldn't abandonment charge?
Well, we will. And that, we had a gentleman that left stuff in our parking lot one time. And we got his tag number and figured out where he worked. And then drove by the business and found his truck in the parking lot, so then we notified his employer. Of course, his story was he found the puppies on the way to work and, didn't want to leave them on the side of the road. May or may not be the truth. But what we tell people is, here's the deal. Before we open, there's nobody there. We sit on Robertson Road. If you find something, you need to call the police. Because they know how to get a hold of one of us to tell us someone's fixing to dump something in your parking lot. Because the puppies didn't stay in the bin, they were running all over the parking lot. And they could easily run over into the road and get run over. But how do you know? And that's the thing, everybody finds everything. So, those are just, it goes back to what Chapel said. There is power in voting, there is power in supporting candidates who agree and support what we want them to support. And I think that cultivating those people who believe in what we want them to believe in, and then, of course, we have to do what they want. Campaign for them, help them get things that they want. We do have good laws. They're not enforced. We don't nearly prosecute like we should. How we change that is probably a longer, harder conversation to have. But getting a group together to stand behind each other and be a bigger, louder voice definitely is where we need to start.
Thank y'all for coming. We're on a timeline, gotta be out of here at 7. If you didn't put your name and email down on this list, please do, because there will be emails going out. Anybody that's really wanting to get into this more than just emails and stuff, really ready, come talk to me, please. Thank y'all so much.